What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Coach Andy and I really appreciate all you listening and sharing the podcast. If you find what we're doing valuable here and you're interested in supporting the show, we just launched a membership website. We got 3 different levels of membership that you can join. We're going to try to get you as many perks as possible for doing that, whether it's discounts on programs coming up, getting you involved with Q&As, or we got some merch that we're planning on dropping soon. If you're interested in doing that, you can go to powertechhockey.ca. Enjoy the show, guys. We're rolling. We were just talking about Motown, and you said what? What did you just say?
Well, you were asking. First of all, I'm really enjoying my coffee, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
sometimes you have a coffee, and it's like, yeah, having a coffee.
Yeah.
Today I'm having a coffee, and I want
It's
it
a good
down, and I
coffee.
want 3 more.
Nice.
It just tastes so good.
I really like coffee.
The Temptations.
Yeah, the Temptations.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
You were talking about...
We had Jackson 5 playing.
Yeah.
So I got our pre-podcast playlist.
Yeah.
Is all super old songs, or mostly super old songs.
Love songs, too.
And yeah, love songs too, which is great. Just getting in the good vibe before we start talking here.
What's funny?
So, your face.
What happened?
Because the songs that I put on.
Well...
So I got I'll Be There, Jackson 5, which my mom used to play all the time when I was a kid. That's why I like it. And then what's the other one? I'll Be There and Maybe Tomorrow. That's it. Maybe Tomorrow, Jackson 5. So I was playing those on the playlist, and then I started asking you. Actually, we were talking about you on the weekend. My family.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were saying that. My voice is too loud. We were saying that the type of music, just the conversation we had this morning, how. Yeah. So I think there's 2 categories of people in your area when it comes to music.
In my era?
Yeah.
What's my era?
Old.
Oh. Okay. All right.
They either like the Beatles, Journey, Styx, Van Halen is kind of a crossover, whatever, or you're and there's some crossover obviously, or like the Stones, Kiss, Metallica, Nirvana a little bit later, Pearl Jam a little bit later. Like you're one of those 2 camps. There's some crossover. Like my dad really likes Led Zeppelin too. That's like kind of more of a crossover one. But you're kind of in one of those 2 camps. Anyways, we were talking about you and your music taste.
Yeah.
And then
did they approve?
My aunt. Yeah, they approve.
Okay,
but
good.
my Aunt Patty was asking, because I said you didn't like the Jackson 5, you're kind of like, meh. And then my Aunt Patty, shout out to Aunt Patty because she listens to sometimes. Yeah. She was saying, asked if you like Motown. And I was like, I think you do.
Yeah, I do.
I feel like we talked about it before.
Actually do, a lot.
So, yeah. But I don't know.
Blues are the roots of music, eh?
I know that.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually was reading that somewhere, and if you start...
Old.
Yeah,
blues is
and
old,
you get
man.
Zeppelin, all these bands go back to the blues.
But I don't know what categorizes Motown. Like, I feel like it's more of just like black artists in general from the Detroit era. Is that, or from the Detroit area? Is that what Motown is? Like, I don't know.
I think it was the producer more than anything.
Was it?
Yeah, Barry...
Well, we could look it up.
Something.
So
but it was like, I think there were small studios in downtown Detroit, which is amazing to go to, by the way. And they had these little studios in Detroit and made the music, I guess. But Temptations, I love them.
Oh yeah, okay. It says named after the record company Motown in Detroit. So I was kind of right.
Yeah.
Detroit area music.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
So Temptations, I couldn't even name one song though. I don't know. I'm sure I've heard it before.
My Girl.
I don't know.
I'm not singing it.
Yeah.
Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
That's fine.
They're really good. Anyways, really good. I like them a lot. You should. We'll play it one day.
Yeah, we'll play it. Well,
I'm going to add straight up Temptations.
I'm going to add.
And what they do when they do their music is there was a lot of this stuff, like their little dance moves and
like
stuff.
Percussion or dance?
No, just like little dance. I can't dance. Like I can dance.
You should
demo. It's like little clapping and little this stuff with their arms and like it was cool back then.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Most of the bands wore suits. It was like
I can picture it in my head exactly what it looks like.
I like it a lot, bud.
Cool.
I like it a lot. When I was I wanted to bring up 2 things before we actually start.
Yeah.
First thing is the other night I was watching, so I'm trying to think what night it is. It's Wednesday, I think maybe Monday night. Minnesota Wild were playing Montreal Canadiens. And it's actually the first time that I've got to watch Minnesota Wild play more than like 5 minutes here and there. I watched, probably watched 2 periods. Phenomenal.
The team, you mean, is phenomenal? Or
well,
the game?
Yeah, I loved it. They're a good team, by the way. I don't know. I don't follow who's first, second.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I follow players more than not follow them, but I get intrigued by watching players. And Jordan Greenway, he's a 6'6", 231 left winger for the Minnesota Wild. So I coached against him when he played at Shattuck St. Mary's, and I coached Bell Tire.
Oh yeah,
He was big. Yeah, he was about 6'4" at the time. Good player.
6'4".
6'4" in midget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Look him
or
up right
Bantam
now.
at the time. Anyways, he was drafted second round, and he's good. So you wonder, wow, this is a really good standout player, big size and all that stuff. Second round in the NHL.
6'6", 231.
Yeah, 6'6".
Holy
231.
crap!
Anyways, this line. Okay, let me go back up a little bit. Kirill Kaprizov, unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
so I got to watch shift after shift of him, and it's just a playmaking machine, speed, agility. But not everybody can be like that,
Yep.
right? Obviously.
Yep.
So, but just like, wow, man. And he got off to a little bit of a slower start, but wow. But what I loved, and the reason I love this line, so it's Jordan Greenway, 6'6",
31.
231.
Yeah.
Marcus Foligno on the right side,
Oh, yeah.
6'2", 6'3", 220. And then you have Eriksson Ek in the middle, and another 6'1", 6'2" guy, but more of a playmaker guy,
Okay.
right? Well, I was watching these guys play, and it's like, because I don't get to watch Minnesota that often.
Yeah.
But, so I see Josh Anderson over and over. I see Tom Wilson. I love I love power forwards.
Oh yeah.
But the reason I love them is because they set the tone, man.
Yeah.
They set the tone. So you get that line on the ice, and I mean, Josh Anderson's a big, strong guy.
Sorry, because I'm not very familiar with these guys.
Yeah.
Like I know who they are, but I don't watch them. So is it like a line of power forwards?
Ek isn't necessarily.
Right.
Just
So
a
are they?
good-
What are they?
good player.
Second, third line? What are they?
They can be called second or third line, but they're out there like a second line.
Yeah, yeah,
They just bring so much power.
yeah.
I mean, just big, hard hitting, but like with some decent skill. Like Foligno can play those straight lines and play a really good power forward game without being a total meatball.
Mm-hmm.
He fights a lot though.
Yeah.
And same with Greenway. But anyways, I was just watching. And I'm going like, that's the line I want.
Yeah.
Here's my thought. There's teams like as I'm watching the OHL this year, and this is just a thought. Call me a meathead.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And so as I watch some of the teams in the OHL, there's some teams that are really built on skill, which you need skill, obviously. And to the point where there's not any presence out there. They don't have that Jordan Greenway or Jordan Greenway and Marcus Foligno.
The jam.
Or Jordan Greenway, Marcus Foligno, and
Yeah.
a shutdown D,
Yeah.
right? Or a big, tough D.
Mhm.
And I find, like, obviously, no, this is my opinion. It's just my opinion. I think I take it from playing and coaching. Is that I don't think I'll ever be a fan of just building a skill team.
Mhm.
And they talk about how the NHL is going that way more and more, but I always believe that it'd be the intimidation factor. If you know that there's someone on the ice that can
100%
smack you around a little bit, shift
Yeah.
after shift, that team, in my
Yeah.
opinion, wins.
Yeah.
And now there probably are examples, even in the NHL, where the skill was over grit. Maybe
I don't know. I call bullshit on that, man, because I think every
there's my question though: is why would a general manager or the coach doesn't build the team, but why would a general manager not have a couple of those guys? I don't understand.
I mean, can I give you my
yeah, for sure.
what my analysis of this? So, I think, my opinion. So when you played, I've said this a bunch of times. When you've played, it was goon squad.
Yeah.
Then it started to shift out of that into a skill game, and then everything about how the game evolved was towards skill. So that's from like the rule changes, how they call penalties, everything was for skill. So now where you're getting the skill, that's what they changed the game for. And so the teams that had some more skill would win, but the grit wasn't totally phased out.
True.
Right? So coming out of the meathead era of the 80s, maybe into the 90s a bit, you had to adjust, but you still had Brendan Shanahan on your team.
Yeah.
Right? So he was good, but he was tough. Like he could mix it up, right?
Yeah.
So now moving forward, it's getting more and more toward the skill teams. But in my opinion, the teams that always win, in terms of just like Stanley Cup, who wins, not President's Trophy, not who wins the most regular season games, playoff winning teams, they always got some kind of jam for the most part. Like I can't think of one example of a team where it was like just skill that got them.
Yeah, no, and I'm saying it the wrong way. I'm saying it the wrong way because there's some. I guess this is why I'm saying it. Is me and Dalton were talking about this the other day, and I've talked to a couple scouts about it. And bottom line is the guys like the Josh Andersons, the Jordan Greenway, Marcus Folinos, the Kachucks. It's
Tom
a tougher
Wilson.
job.
Yeah, man.
Tom Wilson. It's if they're wanted so badly because there's not enough around. So a lot of the kids. So this is a lot of the answers. And a lot of the kids that like we have one that asked today about getting from junior B to junior A. How do I get noticed? And it's not about being a meathead.
Right.
It's about having a presence out there and doing something different than most of the kids do. So most of the kids that are playing hockey now, and I get it, like I totally get it. Would you like to be Wayne Gretzky? Like let's go back to the '80s. You want to be Wayne Gretzky or, like David Lumley? No one knows who Dave Lumley is,
Right.
but he was integral to winning a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
it's a grind.
Marty McSorley.
Well, yeah, but Dave Lumley was like a blend in.
Yeah.
McTavish, like
Yeah.
great hockey player that didn't get the accolades. So who back in my day, of course you want to be Wayne Gretzky, right? In today's world, I think that with the advent of YouTube, I think a lot of the kids see the YouTube videos and doing all the, the skill level on kids are very good. Is it game
Transferable
a lot of the times? A lot of times, no. I've seen a lot of players that have really good hands, can do all the
practice
edge
players,
work, 10 and 2s like coming out their ass, but in a game they can't really put it together because it's for several reasons. But anyways, I think there's the advent of a lot of that, and the kids follow that more than they actually watch the hockey game. So I think kids want to be the skill guy that does all the fancy stuff, and I think I'm not going to say they have less respect, but even when I was watching in minor hockey, it was very rare that you'd find a kid on the ice that would finish hits and score goals or finish hits and do something skill wise.
Yeah.
And when they did, people would be like, whoa, like, wow, how did he, like, it was like, didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were from a parent's perspective, appreciated.
Yeah. Undervalued
because they didn't go skate through everybody.
Right. Yeah.
But it's more transferable at the higher level. So a piece of advice that I would give a lot of players, and even if you're skilled, take this advice a little bit. I'm not saying go beat people up. I'm not saying go and run around like an idiot, but watch some of the grind that these guys have. And when you're confused or you're asking about, how do I make myself a better player? Take pieces of that game, of the grind game, of the power forward game, and add it to your game.
Yeah.
So that means, finish some hits. Like I'm amazed at how many times people just skate away and not even think about hitting. It's all about puck. And yes, there's less hitting in today's game, but why is it so appreciated why are those guys such a commodity?
Yeah.
Because it's valuable, man. And the defensive zone, just watch what the power forwards do. I mean, if your centerman is different, but look at power forwards and just look at some of the things. Put some of that into your game.
Yeah.
And then last thing about that is you probably will never understand that unless you're a player.
Yes.
Because when you get on the ice and you have someone grinding you shift after shift, that's actually tough. Not fighting tough. I'm just saying you and I are going to go at it shift after shift, and I make you aware that you should keep your head up because I am going to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make you feel the physicality of the game shift after shift. And that's a battle of wills now. It's not a battle of skills.
Right.
And I've seen several people who don't have great games against tougher teams.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that grit. So it's critical. So kids, players, junior, whatever, if you want to add something to your game, don't look at goals all the time. Don't look at, doing the Michigan. I hate the name of that. The Michigan and all this fancy stuff. Get down to basics and get some physicality to it. Because guys, at the end of the day, it's hockey. It's actually hockey, and it's appreciated in your room and when people are watching you.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that I kind of learned when I was going through junior my first year was exactly what you're talking about. Is I was not Connor McDavid. I was not the most skilled guy out there. I had skill and I could play the game, and that's the first part of this, right? Like when people say, "How do I get noticed? How do I whatever?" The first thing is you have to be able to play the game. You have to be good. So all your skills need to be well rounded. So you got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to skate, pass, make good decisions. All those things. Once you hit that baseline, if you're not Connor McDavid, I was not Connor McDavid, not even close, right? Nothing like that. So I've said this again a million times. My coach pulled me in the one day and said, you need to do something else to be valuable or you're not going to play. You're going to get scratched. if you don't do something else. And that was the first time anyone ever told me that. So right away, I was a kid. I didn't know. I thought, okay, I'm going to go just try to fight people now. Right. And that's not what we're saying. You don't have to go and just start to fight people. But what I did notice is when I started to bring that element of physicality where I wasn't scared to engage, all of a sudden I had a little bit of that presence on the ice because people knew that if they come around, like, I'm not scared to do whatever I need to do. I'm not scared to throw the hit. I'm not scared to take the hit. I'm not scared to fight if I have to fight. And that was back when I played, which it was arguably tougher than it is now in terms of just overall toughness of how the kids play. So especially today, if you bring just a drip of that into your game where you're
stick out like a sore thumb,
where you're just willing to get in the shit and cause shit from a engaging physically. And again, that doesn't mean you have to go out and be a goon and fight. That's not what that means. But just having that element to your game, that's huge. So now what you've just done is if you're not the skill guy that's like McDavid or whoever, now there's another reason that we need you. Because you're too valuable. It was like you were talking about what Scott Walker was saying about when he talks to his kid. He was saying it's not just about scoring goals. Like if you're good enough, I can't afford to take you out. You're doing too many good things.
Too many good things.
And that's what, if you watch those, I'm sure Jordan Greenway's like this. I know Tom Wilson's like this. They're not on the score sheet every night, but they're playing their whatever 15 to 25 minutes a night as a forward because they need to be out there because that presence that they bring, that ability to mix it up and jam and create energy for the team, like that's huge, you know? And that's normally an attribute that those super high skill guys don't really have, you know? So as much as McDavid can skate through the team and score a nice goal, there's nothing more energizing than when you watch 3 or the 5 guys on the ice just go out there and crash and bang.
Go down a line or two or have Zach Cassian come up and play with him, and he creates a little bit more room.
Yeah, that's it.
And you don't want Connor McDavid to go out there and running guys all over the place. Yeah. And, there's a reason. But anyways, there's a lot of money to be made at this thing.
Well, yeah, just fill the void. That's all my point is, right? Like there's a gap that you can fill.
Fill the void, man.
there's a gap that you can fill. So many of these teams I watch these OHL games all the time now. Yeah. And when I'm watching, I see the same thing. I see the guys, they curl away, they don't finish hits, and guys that look like they could too. We were talking about a guy the other night, defenseman. It was like, where's the presence, man? Like you could be running this game. Like we talk about Jack Eye all the time, that kind of presence on the ice. This guy looks like he could be that guy, and he's not. And you're taking away an extra piece that you very easily could. I mean, maybe not very easily because there is an element like it's tough, man. It takes some courage to be in that role because it's a tough role to play.
No, it's a tough role. Like so, if you do play that role, you're bringing shit onto yourself. You're not.
Yeah, for sure. You're asking for it.
You can't just run around and hammer guys and not expect anybody to fight back, right? Mm-hmm. That's just it's
part of the deal.
Part of the you live by the sword, you die by the sword, apparently. But it's true, right?
Yeah.
And so you do have to back it up, and it takes a little bit of a mindset and stuff. But it's not 1977 or 1987 where there's 6 fights a game. It's just not that. So you can play that role and back up, but you do have to back it up. And having said that, you don't want to be a guy that just runs around hitting people and not being able to play. It's very important to understand that because there is a place for that. There is. But you last about 3 shifts or 6 games, and then the show's over because now you're just ineffective. You're in the penalty box, or you're just easy to play against. Right? You got to be able to play hockey. So skills first, learn the game, finish your checks. There's a time and a place where I need to go 100% and finish that hit check, or maybe I have to angle it better and be physical, but not go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So you learn those lessons, but the point is be physical.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to finish on for that, where it's like there's a time and a place for it, right? You have to still have the skill to be able to play.
Yeah.
And then you have to be able to identify, okay, when do I turn the jam on now kind of thing, right? Yeah. So you're not just going around. That's why I said it's important that baseline of being able to play is number one. But you have to be able to do that and then identify where the jam comes in. So maybe answering Buddy's question here, because it's kind of was what we're doing anyway.
Yeah, let's do that.
Kind of what we're doing anyways. He was asking, plays Junior B right now, wants to move up to play Junior A around his hometown next year. And where we're at, Junior B is kind of Junior A. It's not as good as the Junior A League, but it's the highest level basically from where we are good to Niagara or whatever.
Yeah.
But the league he wants to go to definitely has more notoriety, more scouted and all whatever that. So you want to make that jump from here to there without knowing you, without knowing anything about your circumstances, and you can throw your thoughts on this after, is everything we just said, man. You have your baseline of skill, and if you're not offensively dominating the game as a forward or defensively producing, then you need to do something else. We talk about it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Find your three things that can make you stand out, and if that little bit of jam you can bring that, then you can have average skill. You can be right in the middle of the pack in terms of skill, but because you bring that secondary element to the team, now all of a sudden your stock is way higher, right? And people notice that.
Yeah. So to go with that fella that sent us the text or email or whatever it was, I'm just going to assume that you're not a big point getter. I'm just going to assume that even if you are, I would still say this is when you're trying to make yourself a better hockey player, don't worry about what. Let me say this correctly. Always work on your skill set. So shoot pucks. Are you releasing them? Like when you get a puck, are you dusting it off and creating time? Or can you work on collecting a puck without dusting it off and firing and getting rid of pucks quick? That's something. Or, like from a shooting perspective on goal scoring. But most of the time you're playing is without the puck. So I would say it is 100% if you're going to get noticed in a much better, more impressive way, is your game away from the puck has to be good. So those are the little details of your game. It's, in your own zone, are you getting pucks out? Like, that's a real simple thing. Are you getting pucks out? And in minor hockey, people really don't know how to teach defense, but your mindset for your defensive zone is like, it's got to be on or else you'll lose. You won't play. In hockey, I find that a lot of people don't take the defensive zone that seriously or kind of seriously. But if a player was to take the defensive zone and work at their absolute balls off with good positioning, right? Learn how to play good positioning, but work your balls off. That's what will get you noticed. Pucks come out of your zone. Guys don't have time and space. That's a big thing. Then it's your face-offs. Then it's your finishing your hits and stuff like that. Going to the net. Get yourself out there so that you make yourself valuable without scoring goals. Then the funny thing happens is when you do those things well, offensive chances come.
Yep.
So I don't know if that person that sent the text in, if this helps. If it doesn't, or we didn't answer the right way, send us another thing and I'll actually talk to you personally about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, no, I think that's exactly it, man. It always comes back to that too. It's like, because people, that's like the most common question that we get basically is, how do I get noticed to go to the next level and whatever.
Let's say, but the problem is a lot of times is, even in junior B, some coaches don't teach. Like, they don't have the ability to teach.
I was just going to say this.
So sometimes you have to teach yourself. You have to ask someone. So teaching yourself is like, go find a player, Marcus Foligno, like we just talked about, Jordan Greenway, Tom Wilson, or a centerman, whatever position you are that you listen. If it's Connor McDavid, don't do what he does.
Yeah.
But if you go find like a good third line, second, third line NHL player that you can watch, or an OHL, if you have a local OHL team, find someone that is a good player that doesn't have, right now have 50 points or 40 points. Find someone that plays a lot, that, and watch and say, okay, what does he do differently? You're going to notice that most likely without knowing proper back checking. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you come back to your own zone, if you haven't got a clue, if you come back to your own zone as hard as you possibly can, and don't stop just because it looks like there's it might be a broken play or something. Get to the tops of the circles, hash marks as hard as you can. You're going to find so many loose pucks are going to be sitting there just because you did that. Broken plays and stuff. Whereas if you float back and wait, and then you have to get on the horse and get to a loose puck. So just like a simple thing like that, learn how to back check through the middle to the hash mark, stop your feet and then sort things out. That's a skill that will pay dividends for you game after game after game, shift after shift.
Yeah.
You'll be in the way.
Yeah. I think so. This is one piece of advice along those lines that I would give is go get a book like this with some paper in it. Yeah. Just like this. Go get a book like this one with lines. Figure out who you play like.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one way to do it. This takes having a brain. This is why we always talk about reading and actually being able to think and analyze things and whatever. It's important. So we covered this when we were talking about interview questions that some of the OHL teams will ask. Who do you play like is a question that they could ask. Who do you think you play like?
Yeah.
You should have a good answer to that question.
Yeah.
And the answer should not be Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Maybe you're Connor McDavid. I don't think so, but maybe you are. Find who you play like. Write down why you play like them, who you play like, and why. Write it out fully and completely. Why that is who you think you play like. Or a second way to do this is, who do you want to play like?
Yeah.
That's another way to do that. If you don't know, who do you want to play like? Now, all this is predicated on you being honest about the type of player you can be, which is tricky, because if everyone wants to play like Austin Matthews or McKinnon or Crosby or whoever. So try, if you're outside of that, then, which most of you are, then write it down. Actually write it out. Think about what it is, because then you can come to those three factors to figure out what you can do on a shift-by-shift basis to try to be like that person. So let's say it's Tom Wilson, for example. You go watch as many games as you can, watch exactly how he plays, write down the things that he does, and then ask yourself if you do those. Do you do those things?
Yeah.
That was something I never did.
Yeah.
I never once ever did that.
Yeah.
Like, who do I play like? I wouldn't know how to answer that question, even still. If I think about how I played, I don't know the answer. So you can start to do that now, and then you can start to create an identity for yourself as a player, and that's a way that you can get noticed, right? So I would say do exactly what you said, but then actually write it out so you know what you're thinking. Put it on paper so you can see what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So
just two more things, just as I'm thinking out loud. So a lot of times you might ask yourself, like, I'm never around a puck though. It never seems like I can get a pass never around the puck.
Yeah.
That's probably not anyone else's fault. Right?
Yep.
So this is another thing, without seeing someone's game, is ask yourself, okay, why? Am I back to the play? Am I coming down low enough? Am I hooking up? Am I hooking, button hooking, or am I stopping my feet? Like, there's a bunch of answers there. And then, like you said, watch that player, watch some systems on how guys do it and why they're around the puck. There's a reason why, right? Success leaves clues.
Yep.
And then offensive zone, like, I'm presuming you're not a goal scorer. But this is even fine. I was just talking to an OHL player the other day, and I said, I got a question for you about your dump ins. So your dump ins, it seems like you're coming in, young player, right? You know him well. You're coming in on an offensive zone, you got to dump. I said, so I find that a lot of your dumps are coming like right behind the net, or like right close to behind the net where the goalie can play it. So is that something that your coach wants you to do, or is it something that you're making a mistake of? Because in my opinion, and do exactly what your coach says, because it could be get it there and flush the goalie out and create some confusion behind the net, and dig them out. That could be the answer, and so be it. But I'm thinking if from a possession, if you want more time with the puck, or if you want to, like, to me, dumping a puck without getting possession is giving up possession.
Yep.
So look at where am I dumping the puck? Maybe I'm better off doing a soft chip. So work on soft chips where you're coming in and just a little bit off the wall and halfway down, so you make them turn your feet and you can win a race or have two on a puck. Or make sure it's soft enough in the corner, right? So it's not getting rimmed, so that you can go there and you can have some work down low. So there's a little bit of puck management stuff that people could do better, because it's great to get the puck. It's great to come down the neutral zone and appear like you're making a play and then dump it in. Okay, that's what we do. But if every time you're giving up the puck, then you're not actually, unless it's designed that way from your team, which most of the times I don't think it is, then you're not using. You won't get noticed.
Yeah,
you'll get noticed for being stupid.
Yeah,
like I don't mean it like that, but it's
that is what it is.
You do the same thing over and over, you get the same result. Don't do the same thing.
Yeah.
Or else you can get a different result. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
So, anyways, a couple things like that. Like, it might seem simple to me, but it might be hard for a young guy. But this is where you have to, like you said, this is where you have to have more of a brain than just play. Got to analyze things. You got to see things. You got to think about your game. Learn the game, man.
Dude, this is why this stuff is so valuable, because nobody says this stuff, whether it's coaches, mom and dad, whoever, minor hockey, junior hockey, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Nobody says this stuff to kids.
Yeah.
Like, just what you just said, just about where you're dumping the puck, never was told. Never was told to me at all.
Right.
At best, it would be like, make sure you're rimming it hard and don't leave it where the goalie can play it or whatever. Yeah. But it was never like, okay, let's think about why we're dumping it. Like, what's the strategy? Like, that was never said. Yeah. So these types of things, it seems simple to us now. And even me, like, when I reflect back on myself playing, would have killed to have some of the direction.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So it's just little things that these kids have just never heard the information before.
Yeah.
So hopefully they're starting to hear it, and that'll help them to start to think about more than just
Yeah.
mindlessly going around the game and hoping that they're in a good spot or whatever without thinking about it, Because you, with a little bit of thinking, just a tiny little bit of thinking, you can make huge improvements
I know.
with just a bit,
I know.
So that's good. Your next thing?
I was doing some working out yesterday. And when I work out, sometimes I focus strictly on my movements in the field. Sometimes to distract myself, I listen to music. Sometimes my mind goes
wherever,
and I get really good thoughts. And yesterday, as I was in that squat rack there, I wonder when people say they work hard, I wonder what they actually mean, right? And so I was just in there, and this is just my thought, and maybe you can clean it up after. I'm like, would people really want to know how to work out or work hard, like whether it's on the ice or something like that? But I'm just saying in the gym, for example, like it doesn't matter if it's the ice. How do you know if you're a hard worker or what level you should be at? And I think as a kid, if you can get with someone that, like, for example, at your gym or a player that you know that is an extremely hard worker, and just ask the question, can I work out with you one day? And do a typical workout and see where your level is. That would be a huge benefit. Do you know what I mean? Instead of wondering, I think I work hard.
Yep. Because
when you think you work hard and then you get with someone that actually does, then you can decide, it's work hard, and then that's just one part of the day.
Yep.
So at being a professional hockey player, right?
Yep.
So in your local neighborhood or your local town, it could be if you live in a smaller city where there's one NHLer or one OHLer or one really good junior B, junior A guy, or someone that's really fit, or just someone in the gym in general a CrossFit gym that can push themselves. Hook up with these guys and just see if you have, like, how far off your capacity is, or see how good you are. You might surprise yourself. But I'm going to say that most of you would be shocked at what you thought hard work is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree.
So is that a statement?
Yeah, it is. So here's I think I've said this before too. So growing up, my favorite player was Steve Yzerman.
Right.
And I wouldn't critically watch when I was a kid because I didn't really know what that meant.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember not knowing what hard work meant.
Yeah.
I remember always hearing people say you have to work hard, but I don't know what it means. So I don't remember how old I was. I'm maybe 12 or 13, or I was definitely into my teenage years. So let's say I was 13, and it was right when the YouTubes came out. Yeah. So I remember watching a Steve Yzerman compilation video of just plays that I went and looked for. And there was a pan to him after a shift. So he had both his knees replaced.
Yeah.
When he was still playing towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
And the total style of his game changed after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching him go to the bench after a shift where he was just hobbling along, like his knees was messed up or whatever.
Right.
And it just showed his face on the bench. And it looked like he was going to die or cry or fall over or someone needs to call an ambulance or something. And it was the first time I'd ever noticed that. Because you see, that happens a lot, but I had never noticed it. So, and I remember that I can still see his face, like the camera pointing at his face on the bench, and just seeing how much pain he was in or how tired he was.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And
whatever it was.
Yeah. I remember it dawned on me in that moment. I don't think I've ever looked like that. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And up to that point, I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what is that? How do you even do that? I don't even know how to do that. So then when I started to work out, I was in the gym probably starting when I was 14, started doing actual weight training. And it was a lot easier to figure it out using that as a medium because my trainer at the time was a bodybuilder guy, and he was about pushing it. So when he would spot me, I would be done, but he'd be like, nope, 3 more, 4 more, whatever. And then you start to learn where your line is, where your real line is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I distinctly remember when I was a kid not knowing what that meant. So what you're saying is awesome. It doesn't even have to be, and it doesn't even have to be in the domain of athletics. In terms of being able to push yourself when it's hard, that type of hard work.
Yeah.
Then that's what you want. If you can find somebody that does that, it could be a football player at your high school. It could be anyone.
Well, that's
right?
what I'm saying. But for me, the best example of knowing how to push yourself as an athlete is because if you punish your body, your mind suffers,
Mhm.
right? Your mind will tell you when you're done.
Yep.
So the important thing to me is like, if you don't have a particular person that you can go up to Zach Cassie and say, "Can I just work out with you to see how hard I need to work?" Which he would say, "Yeah, of course,
Mhm.
but don't get in my way."
Yeah.
Right? Um, is get to a CrossFit gym and do something hard,
Yeah.
like hard, something where you those ones like the kinds that we do sometimes where it's like you can't breathe,
Yeah.
and then still go because you build your capacity,
Mhm.
and then learn that not every workout is like that, but learn that every day that's your day as a pro, like Dalton says. Because to be when you're a fourth, well, in the NHL, and my son's realizing this in the OHL, as much as it's not the NHL, he's realizing that that's a deep lineup. And as much as we talked about it before, the reality sets in is that you, unless you're the top, and he's a young guy right now, every day's a sprint. It's 1,000 miles an hour as hard as you can so that you can stay in the exact same spot, not to lose your position. And that's the way your life will be for the rest of your life unless you become extreme, but your work ethic has to be there still. So I just think that it would be really a good idea for someone to just test the waters and see how hard a human being at an elite level has to work and what shape you have to be to maintain that, and to realize that that's only one part of the day. There's also going home and eating the right way so that you can fuel that body. And maybe it's a stretch after, and maybe it's yoga. Like there's more stuff to the day other than that really hard workout. And then it's going to bed and then doing that day after day after day after day.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that people understand just the concept of I need to push myself because I'm not even close.
Yeah.
But to go with that question about the junior B, junior getting to the next level, part of what we just said is that effort will happen in a game too. I talked about this a couple episodes ago. Is that second effort?
Mhm.
So a lot of the times, players play one and done. Okay, I give up on a play.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
if you understand that capacity and the hard work, and you can push a little bit more, then all of a sudden in a game, when you're doing that soft dump and it's in the right place for you now, and you're grinding, the play's not done. Then you have that second effort, and the best players in the world do that. So learn the hard work to get you to the second effort, and that's important too.
Yeah. So just back to what I was saying, if
Yeah.
you don't have someone that you can look at to do that, that's why it's important just to do things that are super hard.
Yeah.
To get through it and do it.
Yeah.
You know. And there is most people that listen to us probably have an idea who David Goggins is, and he does.
Possibly.
He's a military guy, and he does he's just known for being hardcore and a
Yeah.
crazy person when it comes to working out. And one of the guys I listened to is name's Lex Friedman. He was doing one of the David Goggins challenges of like so many push-ups, so many pull-ups, and running so many miles or whatever. And he said people were giving him comments like, "Well, that's not a good, like you shouldn't be doing that. Like you're gonna hurt yourself. That's not the way to get in shape. That's not the way to be healthy." Blah blah blah. And his response to that, which is perfect for this situation, he was saying that the point of it is not that. The point of it is to just do something that's really hard,
Yeah.
so that I do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way that you can think about if you don't have a Dalton in your life that you can go to, or you literally have no idea where to go to do it. That's the beauty of the internet, man. You can find somebody who's hardcore and like actually hardcore, not the pretend hardcore, because there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
These people that actually do this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Tabata sprints back to back to back. Do 3 of those, man. Just do it so that you can feel what it's like to be toward the limit, right? Because then you start to become numb to it, right? And this is a Jocko thing. It just becomes a no factor.
Yeah.
You know, and so for the last couple of weeks while the kids haven't been playing, I've been making them do these Tabata things.
Yeah.
And part of it is it's actually good training, right? You do your high interval, take a rest, do it again.
Yep.
But the other part of it is it's a mental beatdown. It's like you know it's coming, you know it's gonna hurt, and I'm making you do it anyways.
Yeah.
So now you're forced to try to actually get through this really, really difficult thing.
Yeah.
You know? And there's so much value to being able to do that so that when the going gets tough in an actual game where it matters, now it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. Like you're numb to it. You're not so focused on how hard this is. You can just keep going. And now you're just focused on the hockey part because the hard work part is already a given. Yeah. You know? Well, the last thing I'll throw on that before you move on is if you're someone who's never done a hard thing before, which a lot of people haven't, especially when you're kids, like you've never actually done something that's difficult.
Right.
You still need to have a brain about doing the difficult thing too. Yeah. So don't go and try to do something that is so ridiculously outside anything you've ever done that you actually can't do it, right?
Yeah.
So if you've never run before, don't say you're going to do the David Goggins 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. Like that, you're not going to do it. You know? So if you've never done something hard before, don't do something that's so hard that you won't actually do it. Right? So you got to find the level of something where it's very challenging but manageable to some degree until you get used to doing hard things. Then once you get used to doing hard things, then you have some success and you know you can get through things that are hard.
You have a viewpoot of what hard actually is.
Exactly.
But here's something for yourself. Give yourself a challenge just to see what hard is. Do 100 burpees. To see how long it takes you, and then see what that's like. 100 burpees. That's not going to kill anybody. It's going to be good for you. 100 burpees. And if you find that easy, good for you. Then maybe go 150. Just try to do it all in one shot. Like within a time frame or whatever. And then maybe try beating that another time. Those are good little things.
Yeah, 100%.
Not gonna ruin you.
Good shit.
Okay, you want to work now?
Sure. Oh yeah, you want me to tee it up?
Yeah, you tee it up.
Okay, so last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week? Forget.
I don't know. Oh, we talked about academies. And
the having a brain self-development thing. Okay, so at the end of the episode last week, we were talking about, we had a parent ask about if their kid should go to prep school or not, pros and cons, what we thought, kind of thing. So we talked about that for a bit. So we kind of got into talking about parents, how they, their expectations on their kids and who's this really for and this kind of stuff. So follow-up question I got on that was, how do you draw the line between pushing your kid versus you're making it about you now? So like, where's the line? So the example that actually it was my mom that with the follow-up question. So shout out Nadia, because it was a really good question. So she, for example, with my older sister, my older sister's a really good musician. And when she was a kid, she hated, and I mean hated, practicing piano. Hated it. My mom said she would fight her and my dad. She would fight about it, didn't want to do it, nothing. And my dad made her do it. So he would make her sticker on it, whatever. And now she's a musician. And so my mom's point was kind of like, how can you tell whether or not you're pushing your kid or whether you're being crazy mom and dad, making them do something they don't want to do, whatever. So I'll let you go on a rip up on that before I keep going with it.
Okay. So I think, so that's a different approach. Okay. So first of all, I don't think that there is a line. And what I mean by that is I don't think you ever push. I don't think so. Now, that's going to be out of context. Some people say, well, you have to push a little bit. Okay, just hear me out first. Example of your sister, she was already in the music. She loved it. She did it. The one thing she didn't want to do is piano.
Well, wait, sorry, pause that. Because this was when she was a little kid.
Okay.
So she wasn't in the music yet. Basically, music was like an activity for her at this point.
Okay.
Right? So she needs to do something. So they started her doing the music stuff, and she didn't like it. And so by your philosophy, it would just be like, okay, next thing, right? That's how some people could interpret what you say. So how do you know as mom and dad whether we got to keep pushing this button a little bit, or is it starting to get too much where now we're going beyond what's necessary for the kid kind of thing, where it's not necessary?
I'm going to ask a question. Like, I guess the context would have to be what were the parents seeing at the time? Like where your mom and dad saying, okay, you have to learn something. So you are going to learn a little bit of piano to get your brain going and stuff. I understand that. That makes sense to me.
So
like Charlie was going to play sports no matter what.
Right.
Unless he doesn't like sports and he wanted to play the piano. Right. Which that would have been a disaster.
So this is what I said. So, okay, I'm just going to keep going
something.
Now. Right.
He's doing something.
So this was exactly what I said to my mom when she was asking me about it. I was like, okay, the question as mom and dad that you need to ask yourself is, when you're trying to judge whether do I push or is this too much, the question is as opposed to what. So like, let's say they stop doing what they're doing. What are they going to be doing now if they don't do this thing? Right.
Sitting watching TV.
That's right. So the place that I draw the line, and then you can go after this, is if they're already doing all this shit and you take something away and they're still going to be doing all this shit, then they're still in a pretty good spot. So if you have, just to do a contrast, so for my sister, when she was 9 and my parents made her do piano lessons, if she didn't do that, well, now she's not doing anything. That's worse.
They're making her they're creating something.
Yes. So this is where the line is, right? So your
Yeah.
kids need to be doing things.
Yes.
They need to learn things. They need to be in an activity that teaches them lessons and all that stuff. So if that's what you're going for, then I think it's appropriate to push, especially if you see that they have some aptitude for it or they kind of like it or whatever.
Yep.
But if my sister, for example, was playing piano, guitar, singing, and in a band, and she hates piano,
Well, that's what I thought.
this is what I mean, right? So she wasn't at that point yet where she was doing all these other things. So my parents were both like, no, like you're going to keep doing this because otherwise you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, and from the hockey perspective, where you need to like kind of draw the line as mom and dad is, okay, you have 6:30 in the morning private training session. You go to prep school for hockey class. Then you have your team practice after school. It's like, if your kid doesn't want to do one of those things, like it's a bit much, man. Like they're still doing two things. Like they still have their practice. They still have their school class or whatever. Do they need the extra 6:30 a.m. thing that they're doing? That's kind of where I start to put the line out of, okay, you're starting to go overboard as mom and dad, where it's like, it's a bit much now.
Yeah,
Does that make it sharper for you? Or
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's perfect. I just wanted to know, because that's a whole different question in my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it would be the same with my kids, right? Like if they didn't do anything, I wouldn't sit there and let them do nothing.
Right.
Because now you're not pushing at all, you're not nudging at all, and now you're just accepting whatever happens in your life happens. Now you're not even a good parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
So your parents are sitting there, they recognized, okay, got a young daughter. We're interested in music, right? Your dad's a musician. So she's going to learn something, and it's going to be the piano, right? And I'm sure that if she was 14 years old and like after 2 years and 3 years and she was still fighting it all the time, I'm sure your parents would have
That's
said, okay, pick something else.
Right.
But you got to do something.
Mhm.
And that to me is fine.
Mhm.
Right. And I mean, this is just my thoughts. So I think that's totally fine. But because you can't have a kid just sit around and do nothing,
Yeah.
or else you're going to have, now you're at fault when the kid's life falls apart
Yep.
and doesn't want to do anything and is 300 pounds at 10 years old,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
no, but seriously,
Yeah.
right? And have no confidence and no whatever. You have to learn something. So there's that.
Mhm.
And if Charlie wasn't interested in sports, I mean, yeah, there'd be something.
Yeah.
For sure that has to motivate you or inspire you, right?
Right.
So yeah, so where do you draw the line? Yeah, like if I'm sure your parents, and this is my point when I'm going to talk about the hockey, I'm sure your parents at some point, if your sister wasn't really good at it or didn't take an interest in it and like throw her heart and soul into it, I don't think your parents would have pushed to
That's right.
over and over and over
Yep.
to make her like it, because it's at the end of the day, it's up to her to want to be a
Right.
musician, not your dad or your mom, right? But
Yep.
learning it is good. So as far as the hockey goes, so if you're forcing a kid to play hockey and he doesn't like it, you got to get him out. But once he gets into it and there's a passion, well, I'll say it this way. I don't think there's a line. Okay. It's like as far as hockey, I'm going to go with this assumption. The kid, like most kids, starts playing hockey. Okay. When he starts playing hockey, maybe he's good, maybe he's not, but maybe he's got a passion for it. And I'm going with that more, that the kid's decent. Okay. No one's a superstar when they're 2 or 6 or 9, but let's say you recognize something and there's some effort and all that kind of stuff. Cool. Then you, as a parent, maybe the evolution is you look and you say, okay, he's actually pretty good. And he seems to practice a little bit and it seems to love hockey. So maybe the next evolution is he brings it to you or you bring it to him, like in a casual way that, we're playing for the green team and the local team. Maybe we look at going to the travel team or the AAA team, if that makes sense. Right. And then the kid says, yeah, I really want to do that. Or they bring it up. Okay, that's cool. But I think at that point, you have to look at a certain amount of expectations. Like, and it's not if you play AAA or you play travel hockey or whatever, we expect this, this, and this. Just a bottom line thing is like, hey, look at son, now that you're playing AAA hockey, our expectations from you is that you give it all you got, right? Like we need you to work hard. And here's why. You don't have to say it costs $15,000 a year, but you just say, because when you play the AAA level, what's happening now is that it's going to be a little bit better hockey, and it's going to cost mom and dad like
Money, time,
a little
resources.
little bit of time and money that we so we'll put in what you put in, and if you
Yeah.
don't want to put the effort, then
Right.
I think that's fair.
That's a good way.
It's
of framing
fair.
it. So I got to follow up. Sorry, am I interrupting a thought though?
No.
Okay, because what kind of a follow up on that is that my mom actually pointed out is because like we just talked about with the hard work, like sometimes kids don't know what they want,
That's
right? So here's a question. If, let's say they have a little bit of skill, they're 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever, and then you go to them and you say, yeah, they say, yeah, I want to play, I want to try hard, whatever, and you say, okay, so this summer, like, do you want to do a camp to like get ready for next season or whatever? And they say no.
Okay.
Does that mean no? Or do you say, hey, like you said, you want to, so should we do some extra, like how do you handle that situation?
Yeah, it's great. So this is what I call nudging, right? You nudge, you don't push, right? You can nudge and you can give ideas, and it's almost it's not necessarily passive aggressive, but it's something. So, but there's a fine line. So, would you like to do a camp? No. Well, why not? I thought you would like talking. Like you can have a conversation,
Right?
Not a.
Dictate.
You said you like hockey. You need to go to a camp to get better, so because everyone's gonna be better. That's not what it is.
Right.
Maybe the kid, and fine, doesn't want to do one thing in hockey. Well, then maybe as a parent, it's that one's a little tougher. But maybe the kid is playing baseball and other things he wants to enjoy summer. Fine. If he has a shitty year and he's just not good or something like that, then maybe you say maybe your commitment's not as much as you need to be at this level, especially when you're young.
Yep.
So, but if the kid doesn't, if it says no, say, well, what is it that, you ask the questions. What is it you don't want to do? Why? And I'm fine with that. But as long as you lay it out, and then you maybe look at as a parent, you don't have to make a decision that day, but you look at it and say, okay, maybe he not that committed to it. And it's fine when you're 9.
Yep.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. But what's he doing other than that? Like, is it video games all day? Okay, no. Is it doing nothing? No. Is he playing baseball and lacrosse and soccer? Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
It's always, that's why I said it's always as opposed to what. Like that's kind of the question to ask as mom and dad. Like, what's the trade-off here? So if you say no, you don't want to do the camp, is it because you just want to ride your bike with the other 12-year-olds around the city with your backpack? And what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing when you're doing that. Like we need something as a goal type of thing. Because the other part that, and this was something that I was saying too, is like the kids also sometimes don't know that if you put work in now, it will benefit you later. Like they don't know that yet. So when you're like 9, 10, 11, 12, you haven't necessarily made that association where if I sacrifice today, that will make me better tomorrow. Like I didn't really realize that. I remember till I was like 13, 14, like, if I practice, I'll actually be better when I go play next time. Yeah. And so it takes that, like you said, sometimes it takes a little bit of nudging and stuff, but I like how you set that up. It's more like a conversation to see where their head is at. You're not just dictating that you're going to do this, unless it's as opposed to nothing. Yeah. Right. Then it's like, well, no, you got to do something, bud. Right. Like you need to have something you're doing. So what are we doing? Right.
Again, the intentions coming from the parents again is it's important, right? If the kid is 8, 9, 10, 11, and he's playing AAA, let's say AAA, and he's doesn't see the point, or he doesn't know hockey's in the wintertime. They're kids, right? I can accept that. That's not a problem to me, providing when hockey season comes, he's in. Yep. Right. And for parents, it's like it's not actually important that they go to the hockey camp because your perspective is probably like he's going to be left behind. Or those guys got those 2 extra weeks.
That's right.
Or maybe 2 extra months, and they're going to be better. Maybe for a short period of time, but not. I've seen several kids that don't touch the ice.
Happens all the time, man.
And the best example we have is last year or the last 2 years with COVID, how kids have had breaks in hockey, and they get back on the ice, and what does it take, 2 weeks? Not even to get things back because they're kids. So nothing's that critical. Nothing that is that important for them to get on the ice, right?
Yeah.
So
I think. Sorry, do you have any?
No. Go ahead.
Because I was going to kind of so that the next thing that we were going to talk about, this will kind of lead into that. Is the other question to ask too is, at what age are we supposed to be doing which kind of thing, right? So this is kind of
what kind of thing.
So in terms of what your training should be, or what extra stuff you should be doing, and whatever, it also that changes depending on what age you're at, right? So the kid always needs to be driving the ship. More or less, especially as they get older, that becomes more of a thing where the kid needs to be in it and want to do stuff and whatever, because they're old enough now to know I actually have to put some extra work into this thing if I want to get a benefit out of it. But there's different points in their development where different things are appropriate versus not appropriate. So like you just pointed out, do they need to be doing the extra spring and summer camps when they're 9 because they're going to fall behind? The answer is no.
No.
Do they need to be doing appropriate training when they're 14 and 15? Yes, because that's actually a key development time. Like you would never have said when Charlie was 14 that he shouldn't be training or on the ice in the summertime.
I would say that he should be working on skill specific stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm going to go back to that. This is the issue though, right? Okay. I'll just be honest with you.
Yep.
Is that if your son has to be nudged every time,
right,
he doesn't want to do this right now. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So a very good indicator of whether you should push or not push at whatever age. I'm talking hockey only. Is if he has no desire to pick up a stick and just stick handle or shoot some pucks or pretend he's a hockey player throughout the day or the week in the summertime or when he's not playing hockey, it's a pretty good indication that he doesn't love it and you're worried about it a lot more than him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that would be number one. Like there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but and to me, if you have to push your kid, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. And I can go on this. I'm going to go back to that, but I'm just going to go on my wall. So right in the middle. So I've known him he started training with me when he was 12, did private lessons. And this is what parents really have to understand, okay? When you have control and you're paying their bills and you're bringing them places and they don't have any other decisions, you run their life, they're going to love hockey. Or they'll give you a little bit of, but at the end of the day, you can bring them to the rink and not much is said, right?
Yep.
And he was a hard worker when he was young. Okay. 12, 13, 14, gets drafted. He was a second round pick in the OHL, played under 17, great player. A lot of talk about him. He had lots of points. Great player. Hey, played in the NHL, man.
Yep.
For 3-4 years. Come back in the summer. We spent a lot of time. I remember going out for lunch with him. We were talking about his season, and he was at 16. He was bright-eyed. I love hockey. Yeah, I want to play in the NHL. I want to do all this stuff because he was 16, right? And then 17, he didn't want to work quite as hard. And 18, he knew more. I don't mean this negative.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't think he had to work as hard as he had to work. And what he did is fell in love with golf. Good. But what happened was golf and sucking beers back and being lazy, if I can say it that way, because I don't have any other term, was his go-to. Okay. So if he still played in the NHL and he walked himself out.
Yeah.
Due to taking golf more seriously than the hockey career, and thinking he could get away with a lot of things because he did for a while. Because talent will take you a certain place, right?
Yeah.
So that's that. My point to that is, mom and dad. This guy was talented. He's good. He's still playing, just not in the NHL. Mom and dad, this is the thing you have to do. If you're the one doing the pushing at some point, my son, he's moved out at 15 years old. When I'm not there every day not that we did this, but if I'm a pushy dad and I'm like, okay, we have to go to bed now. It's 9:00 because you got a big game tomorrow and you got to practice and you got to make sure you're hydrated, right? And okay, and then you get up and you go, did you stretch? Did you do this? And you're talking to him about hockey all the time, and you could take him to the rink and make sure he goes to the camp. And did you shoot your pucks? Did you do this? Did you, all of these things that you can control is fine when they're in minor hockey. But once that kid steps out of your house, which is going to happen at some point, my son lives somewhere else now. I wish, if I can be honest with you, I wish my son would be as dialed in as I think he should be. But like Dalton was. But Dalton had his fun too. But when I look at Dalton with 10 years of pro experience, my son's mindset's not Dalton's. What's wrong with you? Like, you got to be like Dalton. Yeah. That guy's dialed in. He eats, sleeps. Yeah, because he's got experience. He did. But he wanted it, and he figured everything out on his own. So your son moves out of the house, and all of a sudden I look at his Whoop, because it tells me what time he goes to bed. I don't do this to be a jackass. It's just part of our team. And I go, oh, he's not going to bed at 9:15 like he used to. Should I call him and say, what's wrong with you? Like, you need to get rest? I can't do that anymore. Right? What did you eat? Imagine if I call him every day, what did you eat? Where did you go? Who are you hanging out with? Did you have a beer? Tell me the truth. Did you have a beer? You had a beer? You had a beer? What are you were trying to ruin your life? Did you work hard in practice? Did you work out today? Did you stretch? Did you do this? No. Now he's gone. Now, at this point, he's got to decide if he wants to be a hockey player, and he's going to learn lessons along the way, right?
Yeah.
And so now he's got to figure out, oh, I went to bed at 12 o'clock last night because I got caught up in this shit. And I'm dragging my ass today. And guys, I'm just making a story up here, partially true. But he's got to decide, okay, that was not the best move. I can't do it.
Yep.
I can't go out there and coach him anymore. Like he'll call me once in a while about a certain thing, and I ask him, do you want advice or do you want to just vent? So if you ask for advice, I go, but make sure you do it within your system. I think this, and this, and we leave it at that. I can't do it, man. Because if it was me, if I was in his head right now, I know the opportunity because I'm an adult. And I know that I'm more intelligent than him because I've read books and stuff. So I know that if he loses an hour of sleep, that he's not going to be as effective tomorrow. But he's 16. What does he give a shit? Right?
That's right.
So dads and moms, you lose your mind over what? That kid has to do it. And it's the same with coming to the game, right? It's like I'm on him right now. So Charlie, if you listen to this, sorry. I don't like his hair right now. I don't. It looks like a dink.
Yeah.
It's puffed out. It's short on the sides, and it's like, dude, like if I'm a scout, like I'm being nuts, right? Like this is crazy dad shit.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him, I go, just get a haircut so when someone looks at you, you look like a professional. You look like a dork right now, but he's 16.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So if you could do everything right, and this is what the parents do, is they over control and they realize that it's out of your hands. So as far as playing the game goes, it's like he's gonna wanna, like, he's got a role, like he's a power forward, right? I could sit there and say, Charlie, there's 2 hits there you need to finish. Like, shut up, Dad. I don't even live with you anymore.
Yeah.
It's all me now.
Yeah.
And you can't, here's the thing, you can't play pool with a rope. I told you I'd say that today.
Yeah.
Right? It'll just frustrate you. And that's what parents that try to make their decisions and push, there's going to be a point where there ain't no pushing. Ain't or isn't. You can't play pool with a rope. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing when you try to push your kid. Now, do I nudge Charlie? Yes, he's 16. He's my boy. I need him to be a good human, and I'm going to help him as much as I can without being an asshole, to have conversations to make sure that he's on track because he is 16. But it's only nudging. And I've told this to my wife several times. I've told it to you. It's out of my control now. Charlie wants to be a professional hockey player. It's up to Charlie. It has nothing to do with me except for, I can nudge.
Yeah.
I can do a couple things, like I could talk to him, right? And have discussions, but it's on him, man. There's nothing I could do. So do you want to interrupt first?
No, I'm
Okay. So speaking of that, now I look at my wall, right? And I look at the player that we're just talking to that played in Colorado. All right. If you look at it from a coach's perspective, okay, and you actually know what this is like now. Okay. You see a prospect that you're training, which you have several now, and you see it. What am I talking about? You're seeing what? There's something there.
Oh yeah, they got something, man.
So what happens is, like, you're no different than a mom and dad right now. Like you as a trainer,
dude,
where there's no difference.
Yeah.
Because you did it with the one kid, and you wanted, right, a little while. We'll get him hooked up with this guy, and you wanted it so bad with a couple kids, right? In your youth of training, you wanted it, and this isn't a bad thing. This is a normal thing. Your dad does it as a music teacher. He might see some talent, goes, okay, we got one. Let's go. And it's not for me. It's for you, for the kid. You got it, man. The other one is I'm going to use another example here. Can you cut this out for 1 sec? Okay, so I just gave you a name of another player that's like the best example ever. So that same age as him up on the wall, right? Roughly. This one guy that I trained is, and Cass will say it, Dalton will say it, he was as good as Zach Cassian in that era, like that arena of talent that I've worked with. 6'3", 6'2", big, strong,
Unit,
could shoot
man.
up, puck. And he was another one, like I'm saying, is like you see it, and if you want it more than them, you're gonna go freaking bananas, right?
Oh yeah, man.
So as a coach, I've seen this over and over. Like, so the first guy we talked about with, I would ask him, I said, why don't, like, you're golfing a lot, man. Why don't you spend more time? Like, you need to train. You need to take that. Golf is secondary.
Mm-hmm.
I like golfing, and he'd laugh, right? And he'd laugh and he'd laugh. And then he worked himself right out of it. And as his coach and and his backstory with his family and all that stuff, I just wanted it so bad for him. He's the nicest guy in the world. And he made lots of money, but he could have had so much more. But as a coach, I'm sitting there going, I just want you to take that talent and go. Because instead of playing 4 years, you're going to play 10. And you're going to be a star. Or somewhat, like you're going to be a top.
I remember
he was a killer.
Oh, I remember, man.
I know.
Trained with him too. And I know. Dude, I remember seeing it when I was training. I remember seeing the decline. I'm like, how's this guy not here every day? Like, I remember thinking that when I was a teenager. Yeah. Because I would see him train. He was one of the big boys at the gym that I trained at. Yep. And I was just like, how is this dude not here every day? How am I not running into him every day when I'm here? Yeah. It's like, how am I training more than him? Like, right? You know? So can you imagine being the dad? Who's invested time and money, but like, hey, dad, you can have a talk with him, but it's probably going nowhere unless you can have a really good relationship and you can strike a chord. But it's that person doesn't want to put the work in. He's fine. Water finds his own level. He's found it. Yeah. He's played. Whatever happens, happens. And what if I instead of making 1.2 million, if I make 600,000 or 800,000 in Russia, what's the difference? Yeah. Right. That was the mindset. Yep. That's right. And this is hard. And the other guy that I was talking about, the other unit that was an incredible hockey player, it was every day. And he'd come in and pretend that he cared. And this is the thing that would fool you. And he'd just, what do I do? How this, what this? But it was always the same problem over and over because he would just get so sidetracked and so non-committed. And he couldn't put first things first. So as a coach, you'd sit there and then at some point, you just go, dude, like, just whatever, come on in, we'll train and whatever. And this is my point with a parent is that if you think that you're going to steer them, ain't happening. Like steer, nudge, yes, but there's going to be a point where if you think you have anything to do with it, you're just wasting your time. Yeah. You're going to go absolutely nuts. You'll go crazy. Yeah. And this is the point where I said last podcast, is this where you have to analyze that statement I made, is that in a house, you can have a motivated parent and a motivated kid, but very, very seldom do you have them both living in the same house. And when you have a motivated parent trying to get their son to the highest level, it ain't working. At some point, you can do it to a certain point. Right. And probably because he has talent and he'll work a certain amount because, if he has to, and he might even be having fun, but left on his own. That's the word integrity, but not, maybe it's out of context here, but it's what you do when no one else is watching. And when mom and dad are gone, what do? Right? The integrity. So integrity meaning in this term, the integrity of how seriously you take the game, your personal growth, your hockey business is when no one's looking, what are you doing? Yeah. And that's. Well, and this is why I think a lot of parents can get fooled by it because like you said, it can take you to a certain level, right? It can take you so far. I was talking about this with my dad actually, because we were discussing this from the last podcast and I was getting my dad's perspective on it when going through, because my dad was really hard on me personally, but he wasn't like a crazy hockey dad. Yeah. Not in the way of like I never skated with you at 6:30 in the morning, whatever. There was guys on my team that did. Yeah. And we were talking about some of these guys and their parents and how their dads would say to my dad, oh, he's got to be here. He's got to be doing this. He's got to be doing this and all this yada, yada, yada extra stuff. And that my dad would say exactly what you just said. My dad would be like, he's got baseball. Like, he's got Piece 12. He's got baseball in the summer. Yeah. Like, I'm not going away every weekend to do whatever XYZ thing, But parents can get caught up in that because, like you said, it can get you, when you're the one steering the ship, it can get you to a certain level at the start by doing that. But the floor comes out at the same time for everyone, man. When 16 years old hits, wherever they're at, it's going to end up being them now. Yeah. So you can think you're getting away with it and it's working and you know better and you can get away with being, the overbearing hockey parent, but you can't. It's going to catch just like it catches for everybody else, So I think putting a bow on it for the parents, just to stick with a simple answer to the question, is like, so drawing the line between where you're pushing and where you're making it about being like you're being a crazy parent now. Yeah. There's a difference, like you spelled out. You can nudge, you can give guidance. You want to make sure that they're doing something productive with their time. All those things are fine. But as soon as you start to cross into the land of, you're the one enforcing all of the work.
Yeah.
Or you're doing so many extra things that it's crazy. Like if you were to take one thing away, would they still be doing all kinds of things for their sport or whatever? That's kind of where I put the line. So if you start to cross that threshold where it's like you're the one making them do all this extra crap, or you're the one that you're nudging them every day to do it, like those are kind of the things where now you're it's not just pushing them or nudging them or giving them some guidance. You're beyond that now. Now it's like it's about you're making this about a you thing, like you're wanting it more than them, and now you're becoming a problem.
Yeah. So just a couple things here before we wrap it up. This is maybe I don't even want to call it a strategy, but it's just something for parents to think about. Okay. So what are your expectations as a parent? Okay. So if you see some maybe a little bit of talent and you see a little bit of effort, what are the expectations? So to me, what's good, and this is reasonable, and I think it should be applied to everybody, because at the end of the day, it's the kid that has to make the decision to be a pro hockey player. But anyways, what do you want out of the sport, out of hockey? You want exercise. You want. I know this sounds like okay, like nice guy, but this is what you want out of sports, out of hockey. If you're thinking other than this, you're wrong. You want to have your son exercise, maybe learn some teamwork, make some friends, learn some work ethic, learn about commitment. Those are good, positive things. That's what sport's about, and to keep you athletic and all that kind of stuff. Keep you in the lane of being a good kid. If a player shows interest or talent, moving to a higher level seems reasonable. Yep, as long as they want to do it, but together you make that decision. Good way, and it's a good way to discuss life habits, right? So when Charlie, if you see an interest, then you could use the sport to be a good parent. This is how I raised my kid. Because hockey was so important to him that I could use that to build life habits. So if he did something, like say he practiced his shot and he got a nice goal, or something that he practiced worked, I would say to him, I said, see how it's funny, Charlie? How that works? If you put a little bit of time into something, then it becomes automatic, even though you don't see it in the beginning, right? So we do that in math. We do that with brain work and all that stuff, working out. You don't see it in the beginning. You do the work, blah, blah, blah. So those are lessons you can get. What's bad is if you see it and you, mom, dad, are pushing, and in your head you're pushing for college to get the school paid for, OHL, NHL. There's something there that's push for that. That's on you now, right? That's on you. That's the bottom line. But of course, you can always discuss things with kids. Like you'd always, like I said before, you relate things to if you really want things, but they have to want it, and you relate life to that. I personally. I've never seen a pushy parent, like not even crazy, but I don't want to say this the wrong way, but I've never seen a relationship where a parent pushed, turn out really good at the end with the kid. I'm not saying they hate their dad or them. I'm not saying that, but there's that thing. That dad, you push me when,
a little resentment or
and I've
a little
seen
bitter about it. Yeah.
Just a little,
Yeah.
or there's that thing like, oh, you were kind of dumb at the time.
Yep.
I personally haven't seen it. Here's something that I think is very, very, very important is when you might like this, bud. But seriously, I always say this, like, what did you do, Dad? So here's the thing. If you're asking your kid to do, like, I just want to get his school paid for, that means he's going to play the Canadian Hockey League, or he's going to get a scholarship in the United States of America, right? And that's a big accomplishment. What you just wished upon your kid or pushing for is for your son to be in the top 5% of this game in the whole world. You want your son to be a 5%er. Okay? Now, if you've never been a 5%er in anything, you have no idea what that means. You have no idea what it takes. You don't have the commitment because everyone has an opportunity to be a 5%er in something.
Yep.
Whether, like, whatever it is, there's every field in the world, you can be the top of your field. Why aren't you that? So you actually don't have any idea what 5% means. And if you are if you're playing in the Canadian Hockey League, you're in the 5% of the best in the world. If you play in the college, you're in the top 5%. If you play in the NHL, you're in the top 1%, but you're top 1% of the whole world. So if you have never done that, how can you give advice and how can you understand the commitment and start picking apart what he's doing right and what he's doing wrong? Because you don't know. You have no idea. And if you are in the 5% in your field, if you happen to be a businessman that makes $100 million, $50 million, or you're doing like that well in your life, or you created Amazon, or you were a professional athlete, or you run an accountant company and you have 15 practices around whatever, you know what it takes to be a 5%er or a 1%er. And you don't have to say one word because you can know that your son will be one if he chooses to be one. Yep. It has nothing to do with you. And having said that, like the 5%ers that, like the dads that are a 5%er, you understand what it took. You didn't need your mom and dad to tell you to go hit the books.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos doesn't have anyone motivate him. So that's something I think is very, very important to know. If you ask your kid to be a 5%er, you're pushing for that. You better know what a 5%er has to do, what their lifestyle is, and what did you do. If you're not a 5%, you have no idea.
Yep. I love that, dude. That's one of my, it's what I talk about that all the time. It's my biggest thing that will either make me respect you or not is like, what are you doing? Are you doing the things that you're saying? If you're not, then shut up.
Yep.
You know, you gotta walk the walk. Talk's cheap. You say it all the time.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing, whether it's parents or my friends or teachers or coaches or whatever.
Yeah.
If you don't do the things you're saying, then just shut up, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear your crap. And it doesn't have to be in what I'm doing, right? Like you just said, it could be in whatever domain you are choosing. If you're throwing expectations on me, if you're throwing commands at me, if you're telling me I need to do X, Y, Z, and you don't do that with whatever dominates your lifestyle, then I don't want to hear it, man. Yeah. I don't want to hear you dictate to me what I need to be doing if you don't do any of the things you're telling me. And that's really important to keep in mind when you're mom and dad, man. It's really important. So I think going on off of that, do you have anything else off that or no?
No, I'm good. You move to the next topic.
So, well, it kind of all links up together anyways, is the point I was making before. There's certain things you have to do at certain ages. So this was another question. So I've had a few times now, people are asking me questions, or they're asking me for programming or whatever at an age where like it doesn't really make sense to be doing what they're asking for or paying for what they're asking for. So one example of that is there's like some people are asking me for weight training programs for their like 9 and 10-year-olds. And again, I go back to the intent thing with it. It's like, why are you asking me for that? Like, what do you want from that? Like, are you trying to get your kid a workout advantage over everyone when they're 9? It's like, that's not necessary. You want them to start to learn the basics of movement and that kind of stuff. Like, that's fine. That makes sense. But there's things that you should be doing and shouldn't be doing at certain ages. So sometimes just the questions that I get, it doesn't line up with the age that they're asking me for. Yeah. So I thought it would be good to kind of address that, because we're talking about, nudging your kid, giving your kid guidance. It's important. You should know what your kid should be doing at what age, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And we've touched on it in some episodes before, but I think it'd be good to just kind of go like a bit of a point by point, like when they're in what age range, what should the focus be? What should we start to be paying attention to? What should we start learning? What's worth an investment? Those types of questions, because there seems to be a lot of parents that are sending messages that don't really know when their kids should do which thing, which they wouldn't know. How would they know? Right.
Yeah, I get it.
So I kind of just want to walk through that. I know you got some thoughts that you want to start spelling out.
I'm going to let you do a lot of the talking.
Sure.
But I'm going to keep this fairly simple. Okay. Yep. And it really is simple. So it's funny when you brought this up the night before, I was just rereading. The book is this thick. My course from Precision Nutrition, where I got my nutrition thing. And it was just, I like the simplicity, right? Simplicity of it is, as a fitness or as a nutritional coach, what a lot of people do is they try to have fancy words and they don't speak the same language as the client. So it sounds really good to say that your basal metabolic rate is this. Well, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. To the normal person, it means, if you just said like you're burning, the calories that you burn during the day by doing nothing accounts for this. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Simple language. Yeah.
So the simple language. And then what happens is when someone wants a nutrition program, like I'm just taking it from this book, it's no different than what the question is here. how do I become amazing real fast is the thing. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to do it all. So what happens is the coach has to be able to dial it down and say, I know what you're not going to do without telling them. But he says basically there's level 1 training, level 1 nutrition. If you have level 1 nutrition for your whole life, even if you're an elite athlete, you're good. Beyond that, it becomes too complicated. And I think the same goes for fitness. So you keep it very simple, and you can let people do things that are doable. And nutrition is the same thing. They're tasks. Eating is a task. Like when you dial in for nutrition, it's a task. If you give someone that wants to get into feeling better and all that stuff, like, okay, here's 3 meals a day that you have these macros, these micros, these phytonutrients, this, that, drink this much water, and give them all these different tasks. They might do it for a day or 2. They will fail. They will fail 1,000% because they're going from nothing to like, and even for me and for you, there's a battle, even though we're disciplined.
Always a battle, man.
Always a battle.
Yeah.
So if you take someone that doesn't have the discipline, desire, doesn't already have results, and give them a task that's too much, they will fail. They will fail. Right? So what we do is we, like your term is you give them the low hanging fruit, and you start with that. And then you start with that, and you got to be very, very, very consistent for a long period of time to know that you're actually able to do the task. Then you can start adding simple things on that.
Right.
So as far as the fitness goes, I'll be quick here.
Yep.
As far as the fitness goes, is parents, I know, like, hopefully you're doing it, you're asking the question in a like an honest way. And I think it has to do with a lot like we just talked about. But if you ask this in an honest way, I think the very, very simple is that the kid's going to want to do, the kid will kind of get going at it. But first of all, the first few years of your life, like 6 to like right, up to 6, obviously you're not teaching them anything. But up until about 9 years old, it's just called learn to play. Just play. There's a long-term athletic development plan that is gold. People should just read it. There's 7 stages to it, right? The first one is just an active start. You're playing. You're running around, learning how to kick a ball and just having fun. The next phase would be learn to or your fundamentals. Fundamentals, like fun is in big, fun. And this is where we have to understand that kids, first of all, they're learning how to be coordinated. They're learning how to be run, jump, aim, catch, throw. Now you might say, well, yeah, but that's not getting them. No, this is the foundation of it. You can't actually do anything else. You can't work on speed yet because you're not coordinated. Your mind muscle, your central nervous system doesn't work. So it's important that you just let them play. And I think a lot of times from in hockey, people see, okay, he's a decent skater. Okay, we got to get him extra. And it's like, no, I need to get him in the gym to do squats. No, he doesn't have muscles. They're not muscles yet. It's just body moves.
Yeah.
So then after like 9 to 12, now you're learning more skills. So I'm going to just give my point of view. 9 to 12, there's no need for a weight. And if there is, it's very, very light, but what you're learning is how to move properly. Now, having said that, the child has to want to do that. And it's very difficult to make a 9 to 12-year-old, and we see it in our gym when people bring in teams, is like, as a coach, you can get very frustrated because it's like, guys, just line up and just listen and do the squat. Just do it like this. Do it like this. Guys, are you guys like, you have a brain? Like one leg forward, because they can't do it. And there's a real desire that needs to be there for them to perform something. So if you do, it's like a circuit. It's like jumping. It's all those things put into kind of like a circuit, or still fun body weight stuff. Then once they get to about 13, then we can start introducing, getting trained and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you go ahead first.
Yeah. So
or last.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly basically what I was going to start to get into. So there's, within those ranges that you just pointed out, there's certain things that are appropriate and not appropriate. So for example, one of the questions that was asked of me is they're asking for a weightlifting program for their 9-year-old, 10-year-old, right? I'm like, okay, a weightlifting like a legitimate, like you follow the workouts type of program. Like, is that what you mean? Like you come in and I give you a workout prescription that they follow? Like, is that what you want? And if the answer to that question is yes, then not appropriate for that age. They're too young. So if I hand you my off-season training program that I do in the summertime with the OHL guys, that's not appropriate for your 9-year-old to do, or 10-year-old, or 11-year-old, or 12-year-old. Now, if what you mean by your question is, hey, what can I do to start getting my kid to understand how to move? That's a different question. And now that goes to what you're talking about. So we're talking about basic structural things. And you can get a lot of that just from playing in general.
100%.
But little like small circuit style things, this is what I would call like your foundation training. Like learn how to hip hinge, learn how to squat properly, learn where your weight is on your feet. When do I go on my toes? When do I stay on my heels? Like these are types of things that you can start to point out to them so that they become more coordinated. They're developing coordination. They're understanding how their body moves. They're understanding where their muscles are and what things get activated when they do certain moves. Like those are all things that they can indirectly learn just through very basic.
I was going to say, they're not, like if you say, let's pick up a 5-pound medicine ball and pick it up and they do a heave, you can't teach the technique.
Right.
You got to say, let's do that. But it's got to be in a fun atmosphere.
This is what I'm saying, right?
So let's see how far we can throw it backwards 10 times.
That's right. Right.
Indirectly.
So what I would say, like, if you want to start, like, for lack of a better word, doing like a training program, it would be carrying things, crawling, hinging, squatting, pushing things, pulling things. Those are my 6 basic things that I like to talk about. And then any kind of cardio stuff that you want to do, running, all that stuff. All of that stuff can be done in a fun environment, right?
Yeah.
Like one game that I used to play when I was a kid that taught me a lot about that stuff was we used to play hot box with my dad, and it was zero teaching. Like there was no teaching anything. We were playing a game. Have you played hot box before?
I don't know.
So there's 2 bases and 2 people throwing, playing catch. You have to try to run back and forth.
Oh, like, okay,
so
we call it monkey in the middle.
Monkey in the middle. Yeah, exactly.
In the soup, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's
that kind
great.
of game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just running back and forth, trying to figure out like, okay, when do I run? When do I don't run? Or when am I supposed to stay here? Faking guys out, this kind of stuff. Athletic movements.
Yeah.
Those are games that you can do that. Medicine ball is a good example. How far can we throw this? Let's play catch with this heavier, not ridiculously heavy, but a heavier object. Because then they can start to learn all those body mechanics and position things indirectly because you're not sitting teaching them. So here's just a anecdote that I have. So I teach grade 7 class, and there's 24 of them that come in here to do their workout class. I cannot put them through an actual program like you're saying, because I just get them to line up, man. Like just get them to figure out how to stay at the station that I gave them, right? Yeah. And not do it without touching 10 different things in the gym, right? Yeah. So anything beyond that, what I just said, it's not appropriate. Like it's too much. They're not going to be able to handle doing it unless, like you said, there's a real desire, like no, I don't want to use the word abnormal, but out of the ordinary. They have like some
circumstance. So I'll give you a circumstance.
Yeah.
But and because I was going to back you up a little bit, because I don't think at 9 years old, probably not 10 or 11 or 12 either, is actual appropriate for working out, because it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Abnormal, maybe. So when I was a kid, I had the one guy from the Sudbury Bulls that I found out lived beside me. Mm-hmm. And I saw him jog, and I said, can I jog with you? And he said, yeah. And he bought me a chocolate milk after. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I did it for a period of time after, because he did it. He played for the New York Rangers a little bit. But that didn't last for more than, in my mind, it lasted a month, but it probably lasted 4 days.
Yeah.
Right? I pulled my socks up nice and high like him, and I wanted to be like him. But I was too young to actually work out. I played a ton of football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, catch, hide and seek, all that kind of stuff. And that is what you call training.
Right.
There's nothing more.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I mean to say. So if you're looking for like a actual program to follow workout by workout, like not appropriate, but playing stuff and learning how to be athletic, that's what you're kind of going for.
Yeah. Like, and if your dad or your uncle, like someone right in your house or right that you see on a daily basis is always, doing yoga in their backyard, the kid might say, hey, can I do that with you? That's what kids do.
Well, Charlie's a good example. Like you had the gym, he would come here because you had the gym, and he would want to hop in on doing workout stuff. So he would do. But even I remember watching his little fat cheeks when he was 10, 11, 12 years old in here trying to do a deadlift with the kettlebell or whatever. Yeah, and it was just like you're just making it fun for him. It wasn't like a workout, It was just like pure fun. Play with some of the stuff, like figure out how to move, like all that kind of stuff.
Well, he would grab the trap bar and he'd go, and he started. I remember, Dad, look, can I add more? Yeah, we'll put a little more on there, and we'd make it look like he was doing great. But because he was so interested and he was in the environment, it wasn't until he he got interested, and he actually wanted to challenge himself. So he was indirectly getting some good
That's right.
form.
Yeah.
And, it'd be like, hey, make sure you straighten your back or whatever. Not teaching him anything.
Yeah, right.
So let's be honest. Charlie didn't, like, he did his workouts with the team and his buddies. They weren't for real.
Right.
Like they worked hard. But when he started working out was when COVID started, like for real, because he was 14 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He has experience doing our workouts. Like he was in it, but he wasn't working out program. COVID started. He came to the gym every day with me because it was like, this is what we're going to do now.
Yep.
Right. And so he came in and he told me so Zach Cassian started working out with us because the season was over or whatever. I forget, between seasons. So Zach started coming every day and he would work out with Charlie. And Charlie told me after a week or two with Zach, he goes, Dad, when you and I used to come in for that month, because I hated it. I go, of course you did. You're lifting weights for real. You're challenging yourself and you didn't see why am I doing this? But when you got with Zach, you had a little bit more experience and you can see an NHL guy doing it. And then all of a sudden, after 2 months, you're looking at your body going, oh, this is cool. And I'm getting stronger.
Yep.
But he was 14 and a half,
right.
14 and a quarter before he started working out. And that now it's a part of his life.
Yep. Yeah. So, and then that's what I was going to say. That next mark is going to be when you're like 13, 14, 15. And I'm just talking about specifically for boys too, because I don't know enough about
girls
for girls.
Typically a year earlier.
Yeah. Right. Because I know they develop sooner, but I'm specifically talking about boys.
We train boys.
So when they're start to hit puberty, 13, 14, that's where now, exactly like you just said with Charlie, now it's time where you can get into an actual programming where you're actually working out in the way that people think about training to be an athlete. Like that's where you're going to start that because now you got the hormones to actually develop, man. Yeah. You're actually starting to get that juice where it's like you're on the sauce, man. Yeah. When you start to hit puberty,
you might as well be on the
holy cow, man. Like what a freaking that is prime time growth. Like everyone explodes in those years, right? Yeah. So that's when it's worth doing that now at that time. Yeah. So that's what I'd say for the off ice thing. When it comes to nutrition stuff, and then obviously after that, you just keep progressing. Once you hit 14, 15, now it's just we're progressing in the gym. So that's pretty simple. When it comes to nutrition stuff, kids don't care about, this is just from my experience dealing with kids. Kids do not care about what they're eating until they're in the gym and they can see that they're starting to get some results. Because now you have something to teach with. Now you can say, hey, if you eat a certain way, the results that you get here will be greater. And especially for boys, it's a very ego-driven thing, like to lift the most weight and be the fastest and all that kind of stuff. And the nutrition part of it can start to be, you start to get motivated to learn about those things because you can see that it will relate to something where you're getting a result. But before that, kids don't know, man. They want to eat the Cheetos, they want to eat the pizza, they want to eat the shit. And you can't get them out of that framework unless your environment at home is already set up for that with how you behave. Yep. So if you're someone who eats really, really clean and you're not having a bunch of junk around the house all the time, then naturally, just like we said with the fitness stuff, they're going to start to pick up on some of those things as a kid because they're just indirectly learning it from being around it. Yep. So if you say to your kid, hey, on the day-to-day basis, we normally eat whole foods. We don't eat shit that's in a bag, in a package, that kind of stuff. If that's something that you abide by in your house, then that's something that they're going to learn because they're around it all the time. Yeah. But if you're trying to teach them nutrition, they don't take it. They don't. And we deal with that all the time. They don't take it until they can see that there's a direct link to progress, which normally happens when they start to be old enough to work out.
Yeah. A rule in every house, don't care who you are. This is a rule. I learned this in my fitness thing, and it's 100% true. Whatever you have in your cupboard, if you have a box of if you have shitty food in your house, even though you don't want it, as long as it's there, someone you love, someone in that house eventually is going to eat it.
Yep. For sure.
And it goes the same for apples, oranges, and fruit and vegetables. Someone else in your house is going to eat it. So what you make available is what you're going to eat. As far as nutrition goes, I don't even know. That's a tough one, man. Even for Charlie's raised in a house, we eat healthy. He knows what salad is. He knows what veggies are. He's eaten them all his life. If I again, when he's out of my control, like I'm not feeding him shit, like every now and then, but when I'm with him, we're going to go, like if we go out for lunch, I'm going to say, well, where do you want to go? And he'll say, well, I know you're going to want to go have some like
That's right.
chicken and you're going to have something healthy. So like, I don't know, whatever you think, Dad. I said, no, like pick something. He goes, well, I don't want to be dumb. Like maybe I guilt him. I don't know. But that's good. But as soon as he's away, I don't know what he's eating.
Yeah.
I know it's not probably a salad.
Yeah, that's right.
He makes good choices, but that's a tough one.
But and he's a kid, right? So
Yes.
so at the bottom line, like because this is what I learned in my house. I'm a good example of this. I started to really take to nutrition when I was like into my 20s. Okay,
Yeah, and that's reasonable.
So when I was in junior, when I lived away and I had to make my own food, that was when I started to pay attention to it. But I didn't know what I was supposed to eat and not eat, or how much, or whatever, right?
No.
So I grew up in a house where it was like eat balanced meals. So you're eating, like we would always have meat, veggies, carb. There was always salad.
Yeah.
There was always
Old school.
right? But I was never taught like macros. I didn't know what macros were until I was into my late teenage years, because I didn't take
I
it.
was 40.
Yeah, right. So if you don't have the environment at your house where you abide by those rules, so for the person asking me the question, if you want a nutrition program for your 13-year-old, waste of time, waste of money, unless at your house you follow the rules.
Yeah.
Because if you don't follow the rules, you can't enforce it on them, because the chips are in the cupboard, man, and they're 13. They're not thinking about long term yet, right? So if you want to start teaching them, just to give you something that you could do, real basic, you want to base your diet around whole foods. You don't want to cut out any nutrients. You want to have protein, you want to have carbs, you want to have fats, and that's what the base of your life should be. And that's actually good advice for you at home if you don't do that.
Yeah.
And it should be whole food that you make at home. That should be what it is.
Yeah.
If it's not that, then there's a low-hanging fruit for you. That's what you can focus on, and that's going to start to teach them to pay attention to food, right? So that's about all that's appropriate until they get into the gym years, where you should be giving them to a trainer that can teach them those things anyways, which is what we do when we're here, right? Yeah. So that's what I would say about that in terms of the nutrition thing. The last part that I wanted to talk about, because obviously once they're into their adult years, then the guidance is to be given from 0 to 20, let's say, from when they're born to when they're 20, let's say. What would you say about extra from the on ice perspective, from going to like extra camps, extra skills, I know we've touched on this before, but at what age should we be doing extra things, or what type of skill training should we be doing, or any of that stuff? We can kind of wrap on that.
I'm going to be completely honest. Did I ask you this question the other day? I did. You don't need training. You don't need training. If I'm a kid, a dad, if I was going to invest some money into my kid, I would find someone that can teach skating, not just run drills, can teach skating. That's a good foundation. It's money well spent. Teach, like, so that may be a figure skater, power teacher. No, when you look, most are shit. That's the bottom line. But if you can get a technical skater that learn how to do slow, but the thing is, if you're going to be a good skater, you have to be able to do things slow and listen and slow and technical. So, okay. So what are you talking about, Andy? Okay, you and I talked about this. If I had parents, listen to this, please. You give your kid a choice. It's cold outside. Son, you can go skate with Coach Andy. He's got, those clinics are sick and you love them so much. Yeah. He's got them all week. Monday at 4:00 every day for 2 hours. Or you can go with your buddies on the frozen lake or the outdoor rink. Pick one. Guess which one the kid's picking. Every single time. And that's the right answer.
Yeah.
It's the outdoor rink or with their buddies.
Yeah.
Because that's how you train for hockey as a youth. If you actually think that your stick handling drills, they're good to do, but you can do that with your buddies. You don't need a trainer.
Yep.
When you get to a certain age, now you can work with me. Like, this is just the truth. When you get to like a bantam, 13 years old, now we've got all this fundamental basic still that you're outdoors and you pissed around, because all that stuff is you're just going through every clinic that I've seen that people do. Kids could go throw a pile of pylons out there and just do it on their own. Yeah. You don't need someone to tell you to do it. They pay $50, $100 to do it. You don't need it. So at a certain point, now you could say, you look at your game or whatever, and like, I got a shit shot. Okay, that's a specific thing that you need to work on. And I would say that to anybody, work on a specific thing. Stick handling is not great, or I need to learn the game within the game. Now we can apply drills and skills that can make you better. And it's going to start around 13 or 14. But you don't have to go nuts. You don't have to go nuts.
Yep.
And I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
I don't lie.
But that's the truth, because I think a way to just to give them a little bit sharper opinion on it. There's no training that's necessary that you're doing. There's no training that's necessary until you come up to, like you said, the bantam-ish age group, given or provided that the training you're getting or the instruction that you're getting is very, very high quality, and provided that your kid wants to.
And
so, yeah.
Provided that you're actually a pretty good hockey player.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Right. So
and sorry, and to get to that point, like, this is no disrespect to anybody. It just is what it is. There's 5% that get to anywhere, and there's lesser than that. That it's important that you enjoy the game, you're good at it, you try your best. But the emphasis on training, it's like,
so what I'm kind of what I want to point out is that you don't need it. You don't need it. So if you think you need it, you don't need it. If you want to do it, because you can do whatever you want, find someone who's actually good, number one. Don't just pay for shit because it's a skate. Yeah. That's not necessary. If your kid wants to do it, that's another reason you can do it. That's fine. But again, make sure you're getting it from someone who actually can teach you the skills you're going there to learn, right, is number two. And then the other thing, when they're young, you've said this before, there is no critical training thing. Like, we're talking about on-ice training right now, but there's no critical on-ice or off-ice training thing that your kid absolutely needs.
None.
There's none.
Zero.
None. So once they get to that age where we're coming up on towards the draft year kind of thing, 14, 15, 16, if you're a top player or one of the better players on your team or whatever, and you want to get some extra training on, that's a good motivation. But outside of the kids actually wants to do it and you can actually find a good trainer, like, you don't have to do any of it in terms of, especially in terms of the on ice, like, skills type training. Cause like you said, you can do a lot of it on your own.
Well, so you can do a lot on your own, and when you do it on your own, there's no such thing as overtraining.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
You can go to an outdoor rink all day, every day. And that's because you want to, and because you love it, and because you might be totally dialed in on training and whatever, but that's your choice.
Yep.
To listen to some other guy, like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that even though, like, it's very funny to see the skills that the people are thinking they're building a real high-end skill set. And that high-end skill set, it's like the good guys just go, yeah, okay, what, that one? It's nothing. But the more important thing is it not game transferable half the time. Like, you got to, like, so... Like, we talked about our shooting in our shooting episode. It's like, we got to work on a shot. Okay, what does that actually mean? But at that point, it's appropriate to start working on that early. But identify the skills, and if you identify them, then and do them to make your all-around game better. But you have to know what kind of player you are too.
Yeah.
And you don't know when you're 10.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know, man. You don't know.
Yeah, right on.
You don't know. Just love it. Go play and have fun. There's no nothing to get excited. Not excited. I said that wrong. There's everything to be excited about. Hockey is the best game in the whole world, in my opinion. And for parents, going to a tournament, it's the best. Watching, cheering for your kids, and watching them smile, and watching them win or lose or whatever, and going to the tournaments and watching games, it's the best, man. Nothing better. But to take it to the next level and worry about it, there's nothing to worry about. Mm-hmm. Enjoy it. It's the best.
Sweet. Cool. I think that's good. Anything else you want to leave on, or good to go?
No, good.
Okay. Bye, everyone.